What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening with the overall market this far and how you should be looking at the charts moving forward, and some very important developments that are happening as we have important data coming out. But before I begin the devil's information, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you are guaranteed 7 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon, just a couple of weeks. Anyways, for the market, I just want to say that we're at this head and shoulders like pattern on SPY. However, nothing is guaranteed in this market. It's very, very wild. So we're going to be watching to see what happens tomorrow since we have important data affecting us, not to mention Apple's earnings. Now, Apple could help the market try to push higher, but there's also a lot of unemployment data, a lot of data like that coming out, and that is going to affect whether or not we continue to push or if we get a rejection. So I wanted to break down more information about this. Tomorrow, we have important data coming out. Tomorrow is Friday, May 3rd, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens, we have the non-farm payrolls, the unemployment rates, not to mention the labor force participation rates, and more data involving payrolls. The unemployment rate is going to be the most important piece of data an hour before the market opens, and we'll see how this ends up affecting us. On top of all of that, 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the S&P Global Composite PMI coming out. Then 30 minutes after open, we have the ISM Services new orders, prices, and employment. So new orders and prices are very important for inflationary data. They're very forward-looking, and we'll see what this causes. So in essence, make sure you guys watch the market an hour before market open if you're awake. Don't forget that's going to cause volatility. And then also 30 minutes after market open, that first 30 minutes is going to be wild as we have lots of data coming out. And after that, the market will then do its thing. But watch for volatility at those times. Right now, market volatility is neutral. The VIX is trying to determine if it's going to bounce or not. We also have the puts and call options positioning becoming greedy now. We're seeing puts continually being closed overall, and we're seeing more calls being bought, at least for the overall indicator. On top of this, we also have market momentum becoming neutral, and the market is still kind of in the middle. Now, for earnings, excuse me, guys, for earnings, we had Coinbase and Aapl announce some very important things. Coinbase was actually running very hard today. It was up like 9%, a little bit over 8% actually, for the day. And then after its earnings came out, yes, it was great, but it was kind of like a buy the rumor, sold the news event because they had very strong earnings and the share price started dipping, but it's still up overall for the day. So what happened was their EPS was $4.40, well above expectations. Revenue was at a $1.64 billion above expectations, and we had some very, very nice growth overall. So it already pumped in, kind of priced this in initially today, and then once the data came out, we ended up seeing the share price dip a bit, but it's still green for the day overall. Right, it ran 8%, it's only down like 2% in the after hours. Still pretty good. For Aapl, Aapl has announced the largest ever $110 billion share buyback, and that's why Apple's on fire right now. It's pumping very, very nicely, up 6%. EPS was at about $1.53. Revenue is at $90.75 billion, both beating expectations. However, their iPhone revenue ended up coming a little bit short. Mac revenue was a beat. iPad revenue was a little bit short. Other products revenue was a little short. Everything else is very close to expectations. So what do I see for the future? Well, there wasn't really any formal guidance by them, but their buyback was such a big piece of news that the share price is exploding and investors love this. So we're looking at $110 billion worth of a buyback. Now, for the overall options chain for SPY, we're actually still kind of flat in the after hours. But I wanted to call out that for tomorrow, we have a little bit over 420,000 calls expiring, and we have over or very close to 800,000 puts expiring. So if a 1.87 put to call ratio, are we going to see a short squeeze and the market makers do the unthinkable, or are we about to see our technicals play out? The chart is very simple for tomorrow, guys. I want to make this very simple to understand. So it's very hard to determine what's going to happen because there's so much data coming out. I'm not 100% sure what the unemployment numbers will look like. If I was a fortune teller and I knew everything, I would tell you. And then another big piece of data will be the services numbers. So the ISM new orders and prices is also very important. I don't know what's going to happen with the data. So we're just going to have to wait and see. We look a little bit more bullish here. I could see this attempt to go a little higher. We'll have to watch and see if we reject off this 508 area. If we push higher and reject off 508 and start sinking, then the head and shoulders could play out, and this could actually start dipping all the way back down to 494, or even lower levels if the head and shoulders plays out. If we get a big rejection off 508 and we end up losing basically 502 again, there's going to be a risk of this head and shoulders playing out, and we could be sinking. If we break past 508, look for 510 as resistance. If we break this, we're going to turn back to bullish, and this could start pumping more. I'm going to be honest with everyone. I actually thought the market would see more downside than we ended up getting. We actually dipped a little bit into the 499 area before getting a bounce. So that was close to expectations, but ultimately the market got bought back up, and sometimes things like that could happen. So it is what it is, guys. We just want to be unbiased. I'm going to try my best to be as unbiased as possible. There's a head and shoulders that could lead to a big sell-off, or it could be something very different. I also think there was a lot of manipulation yesterday. They made technicals look very bearish yesterday, especially after some things Powell said. But instead, the market got bought back up towards the end of the day because of Apple's earnings. So we're going to see, will Apple help us pump alongside the data coming out for tomorrow to invalidate this bearish structure? If we break 510, we're bullish. Or do we reject off 508 and start sinking? If we lose 502, we could turn back to bearish again, and the bears will gain control, trying to sink this back down. Watch and see the levels tomorrow. That's going to be the best thing I could tell you. Let's be unbiased. Let's wait for the data to come out, and let's be very patient and open-minded traders in the process. With the QQQ, it's the same thing. Now, if the QQQ is bullish tomorrow, we want to see it break 430. If that breaks, watch 433. If we break this, we're easily pushed to 435 to 437. If we're bearish, you want to see it reject right here just under our 200 EMA around the 430 area. If we get this big rejection, watch it lose 425. It's going to lead to a bigger dip all the way down below 420. So we'll just have to wait and see. Honestly, guys, I'm just going to be unbiased right here, and we'll have to wait and see what the move is. So just give it the time it needs, and we'll see what the move is. I'm going to be very, very patient with the data that's coming out, and we'll see if we get a break or not. But if we fail, the head and shoulders will play out. If we break out, then I'm going to be open-minded to this and validating it, and we'll just see what the data causes tomorrow for this. Now, Tesla's on a downward trend overall, and there is a risk of it eventually coming down to fill this gap. However, I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to happen tomorrow or anything like that. Tesla's just in a range. For the last 3 days, it's been stuck within this range. Around 178, it's been getting bought back up. And we have resistance around 185 and 182. It might just continue to be range bound. Look for a little push tomorrow morning, see if we reject. It might just continue in this range, but if we lose 178, we turn bearish, and there's going to be a risk of it falling. If we break past 182 and hold above, we could push towards 185. Otherwise, we're still in this range. The trend is a bit more bearish on Tesla because it's been on a downtrend, but we'll just have to wait and see. This does favor Tesla kind of popping and then eventually dropping later on. But watch the range and then watch and see what the bigger move is, at least for the time being. Nvidia is showing some life. It does look like it wants to push higher, so I do see potential for it to go up to about 872 tomorrow. But watch to see if we get a rejection, because we have a potential slanted head and shoulders that's kind of forming right here. Not to mention, Apple is also helping it, so that's part of why it's up. So we're going to be watching this very carefully. If Nvidia breaks 885, we're back to bullish. We're going to be pushing to the 900s. If we fail to break that, we come just short in the 870s and reject, we're going to be retracing back down to 850. So I'll give this some time and see how it goes. Apple is pushing right now. We could easily go up to 185. We're looking very bullish, so watch and see what happens. The buyback news is huge. Apple could help the market to some extent, but the other data that's coming out could also affect us. Palantir came down. I was trying to rebound. It looks to me like it's going to go up to 23, and we'll have to see if it rejects or not. It's going to push a little bit higher towards this imbalance, in my personal opinion, but then we'll have to watch and see what the reaction is once we get the manufacturing numbers and such. For Supermicro, this is also trying to push. I came down pretty hard to 708. Now we're trying to rebound. I think it's going to be testing 786 tomorrow. So look for a little bounce on it and see if we get a big rejection or not. This could be forming like a head and shoulders right here. This could be like our left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. But it all depends on how we react to about 786 to 800. So look for a little rebound first, and we'll see what the move is moving forward. For SoFi, we're trying to rebound just a little bit. We're going to be looking for 7.07 to be tested. If that breaks, 7.22 is coming. I think it's going to try to rebound a bit, but then watch to see if we reject one of these levels. We could reject right here and come back down, or we could reject at the 50 EMA and then come down. We'll just have to give this some time. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're going to be looking to see how this ends up moving. I do think that this is showing some life. We're at resistance at 200. If we reject off 200, we're coming back down to 198 or lower. If it breaks 200, if it manages to do that, we could easily go up to about just under 203. I think that's going to be my next target. This kind of resembles a cup and handle, so it looks a little bit more bullish to me. But just to be safe, let's see if we get that break. For AMD is kind of stuck right now, but it's trying to turn. It's been dipping really hard, exactly as we kind of predicted earlier. If this bounces, we're going to be looking for a test of 150. If it breaks 150, we're going to be looking for 155, just under our 50 EMA. If we end up breaking up to 150 and rejecting, it's going to be making a move down. It looks to me like it's going to push a little bit higher, but watch and see if we get a rejection or not. ARM came down a bit. Now it's trying to rebound. Watch resistance at 99.23 to 100. If that breaks, we could be pushing up to about 102. If it's rejecting, we're going to be coming down towards 96, so give it some time. For Coinbase, this thing pushed so much for the last 2 days that even though the data that came out from earnings is good, it's actually dropping. It's kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news event. So we're going to be watching support at about 220 just to see how it moves, and then we'll see what it does from there. So it's going to test that. Amazon's pushing thanks to Aapl and the others with big tech. There's an inverse head and shoulders, but we're at 185 resistance. If it breaks this, we could easily go up to 187. If it rejects off 185, we're going to be dipping back down to about 180. Overall, we're at resistance, but it's looking like it's showing some life. Meta's also kind of flat in the after hours. I'll be watching to see how it reacts to our 20 EMA. If it breaks 442, we could be pushing higher towards 450. If it rejects off 442, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 432. So give this some time. For Microsoft's at resistance at about 398.5. If that breaks, we're going up to 403. If it rejects off, you're going to be dipping down to 392. So I'll give this some time as well. For Google, this came down quite a bit. It's trying to rebound temporarily, but it's still not looking that great. I'm going to be looking for a test of 170. If it breaks 170, then we could go higher towards 172. If it rejects off 170, we're going to be dipping back down towards our 20 EMA at 166. So watch for a test of 170. For the VIX, we're in a very, very strange place. Now, if the market's about to rally, the VIX is going to come down to fill this gap around 13. If the market is not ready for the rally and the VIX ends up getting a bounce tomorrow as we're at resistance, we have to see it break past 16. If that breaks, then the VIX could get a breakout. As of right now, we have to give this some time. The VIX does look a little bit more bearish, which suggests that the market could try to bounce. The 10-year Treasury yield started to turn intraday today, so we have this gap to fill now. If it starts sinking towards 4.5, this could be a somewhat more bullish for the markets. And the dollar index is kind of coming down a bit. We're approaching support at 105.2. So if it keeps falling to that support, we'll have to see if it bounces or not. If it loses that, that's going to be bullish for the markets. So the market is showing some signs that it wants to bounce. I do see some signals that suggest that. But what's interesting is we have a head and shoulders on SPY. Is this a trap? Is the market trying to trap investors, or are we about to actually see this play out? Well, the best thing to do is just wait and see. So far, we have something positive, which is Aapl, but we'll see what causes or what happens with all this data coming out. We have a lot of data in the morning, so we'll just give it some time and see how things go. All right, so thank you for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. I'll make this video very short, sweet, and simple. The reason why I'm trying to be quick is because I'm having this weird glitch on YouTube where it's very hard for me to upload videos. So I want to make this video shorter just so that I have a higher probability of being able to upload this. So let's hope this ends up coming out, and I hope everything goes well. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for the next one. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day, and peace out.